I was fortunate to be part of the Bill Committee for the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill, so my summer was spent digesting each and every clause of this monstrous bill, monstrous in size, I'll just clarify, and seeking to understand whether it did in fact fulfil the ambitious title, whether it did in fact move powers closer to communities. Must be clear, though, the last government started the process of creating regional mayors and limiting the ability to access funding through this mechanism. And I recall visiting the former Secretary of State in his office in Marshall Street, alongside my then Council Chief Executive Graham Farrant and the former member for Bournemouth West, seeking the zoning of Bournemouth Town Centre as the first retail-led investment zone, only to be told that I could only have this if I presented it as a devolution programme, or there would be no money. So we've been here before. Devolution was expected in this Parliament, though perhaps not in this form, and it does have the potential to improve lives. Problem arises with this bill because for many people in England, the bill gives with one hand and takes with the other. Yes, it shifts some power and money from Westminster to the regions, but it abolishes the very councils that deliver vital services and completely ignores the hyper-local councils that residents know best, their towns and parishes, especially for the honourable member from Hammer Valley there, who I know loves hearing my references to town and parishes. This bill could and should be so much stronger. The committee, as already noted by the Shadow Minister, made many sensible suggestions and amendments, and it is disappointing that so few have been accepted. So let me highlight just a few that sit in today's pack. I welcome new clause 29 in the name of the Honourable Member from Brighton Pavilion, which requires mayors and strategic authorities to act in accordance with the Climate Change Act and other environmental laws.
Would the Honourable Member give way?
Of course.
Can I invite the Honourable Member to propose new clause 29? I don't know if that is possible at this stage.
What was...
to move it.
Vicky said.
Yes.
I am very happy to move clause 29, should you not have the opportunity to...
If Miss Berry, if you need some information how to process procedure, please ask the clerks or the chair. And we're speaking to all the amendments. Not now. You can come to me in a minute. Continue.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Chair. My concern without this new clause is that a mayor that perhaps does not honour the net zero commitments of the councils that sit within their area may undermine the principles and the hard work of councils that will have been done over so many years. Next, new clause 4 in the name of the Shadow Minister and new clause 25 in the name of my honourable friend from Newbury relating to community infrastructure levy. SIL is an important measure that councils rightly need to mitigate the impact of new homes. And when residents come to me worried about development, they're always asking about what happens with new roads, schools and services. That's why SIL matters so much. But in Dorset and elsewhere, homeowners have been wrongly charged SIL for extensions and self-builds, with £1.6 million taken in error. Now, ministers say that the system works, and if so, what do they say to those homeowners out of pocket by tens of thousands of pounds? Accepting these two simple amendments or introducing clear and robust regulation would reassure those homeowners that they will not be facing unfair bills. Next, I met my husband Paul while living on the Isle of Wight. So I have huge sympathy with and support for both new clause 39 and new clause 48. In fact, the failure of that ferry service is most likely responsible for us going from a date night to a long-term relationship. I shall say no more. The cost of ferries across what is, I understand, to be the most expensive stretch of water is eye-watering and really impacts on people who have to leave for the most basic of services. And whilst the Sandbanks ferry in Dorset is not the only option to cross our water, the alternative route, 20 miles around Poole Harbour, creates massive congestion and contributes to pollution. Yet the high charges made by the ferry is forcing people to drive rather than take the short hop across the mouth of the ferry. So I absolutely welcome the two new amendments on that matter. Now, I've spoken many times on the Bill Committee and in this chamber about the plight of Wessex. Overlooked by the devolution priority programme, the councils that make up Wessex, that's Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, Dorset, Wiltshire and Somerset, have calculated that the opportunity lost to the region by their exclusion is more than £300 million in this year alone. That's £160 per resident of Wessex, which means missed business opportunities, stalled education investment and a go-slow on much-needed transport improvements. Now, I'm reliably informed that a foundation arrangement may be just around the corner for us, but there's no solid commitment on Devo Round 2. So new Clause 24 simply seeks the publication of a strategy and a clear timeline for future devolution. But let me turn, Madam Deputy Speaker, to those hyper-local councils, particularly for the benefit of the Bill Committee members who will be missing these comments. Town and parish councils create community identity and get things done. In my area, Wareham Town Council is currently busy buying a vacated bank to create an amazing museum of Purbeck, including a special section on Lawrence of Arabia. In Beer Regis, the parish council operates the village bus, ensuring that the villagers can get to town at least once a week. The town and parish councils of Wimborne, Coalhill, Upton, Litchett, Corfmullen and Pamp Hill are working together to find a solution to the dangers of Julian's Bridge. And Holt Parish Council is supporting those homes around the Heath to recover and secure their homes from the recent wildfires. And yet this bill completely ignores their importance. Amendments 50, 53, 54, 55 and 56 would ensure there's an obligation to consult with them prior to their area being pulled into a foundation authority or being added to a new or existing combined authority. Ministers have suggested that this would create too much bureaucracy, but I disagree, and so do my town and parish councils. These amendments simply seek to enshrine the value of these statutory bodies into the devolution process. Now, finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to talk to a new amendment in my name, New Clause 74, that goes to the heart of one of the government's missions, a fairer Britain where everyone lives well for longer. The places where people live and work shape the decisions they are able to make. In places where unhealthy food is readily available and highly promoted, it is harder for people to make healthy choices. Many councils are working to ensure that healthy choice is the easy and affordable choice, and the extension of free school meals and the introduction of breakfast clubs shows the government's priority around this. I also welcome the recent announcements on funding for play, as championed by the Honourable Member for Bournemouth East and the All-Party Parliamentary Group for which I'm Vice Chair, which complements a local investment by BCP Council of £3.9 million. But obesity costs the NHS and the economy £98 billion a year. Councils are supporting the health of their communities by adopting advertising policies that refuse adverts for unhealthy foods on the outdoor hoardings that they own. But they are unable to use the planning system to reject applications for privately owned sites because of out-of-date regulations that restrict refusal to limited grounds of safety and amenity, such as whether a sign is illuminated. These hoardings are most often situated in the most deprived areas where access to fresh food is not as easily available. Now, Jamie Oliver played a significant part in the last Labour government through his TV show Jamie's School Dinners and his Feed Me Better campaign that outlawed turkey Twizzlers from our children's lunches. So with the government showing such commitment to healthy childhoods, I hope the government will agree to work with Jamie Oliver again by accepting my new Clause 74, which is also championed by the Town and County Planning Association. This new clause simply notes that councils should be able to control what sits on the hoardings of private land, enabling them to regulate advertising and include duties on them to use that power in relation to health inequalities. Madam Deputy Speaker, devolution should truly empower local authorities and local communities, and I hope that the government will accept this and the other amendments I've raised as the bill passes through its remaining stages.